Welcome to All Tech Radio, where we bring you the news of the week in technology. And joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, Scott Portingale. Welcome, Scott, to the show once again.
Well, good morning, Robert. Good to be back. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a little while. I realize your day job keeps getting in the way,
I
and
know, pain in the butt.
and I've been traveling a little bit. Now I'm back. It's the new year. So lots of exciting stuff. So we missed CES again. Remember when you and I used to go to CES all the
Yeah,
time?
I know. We need to nail down plans for doing it next year. We need to get signed
Yes.
up and get down there next year.
That's can your employees handle everything while you're gone?
Oh, no problem.
No problem. All right.
Plus, I do, plus I
Okay.
do 80% of my work remote anyway, so
Oh, okay.
or I
Are you
can
saying that
do.
you might be billing while you're on the floor of CES?
Yeah, that could be. That could
That could
be,
happen. Could happen.
Yeah, I got one client that when he calls me for consulting, he says, "No, you're going to bill me for this call, right?" It's
I
like,
like that
okay.
customer. All right.
Yeah.
But does that customer actually pay the bill though? That's the question.
He actually does, yes.
All right, cool, cool.
Yep.
Well, lots of good stuff. I realize the news from CES is already out there. Pretty much everybody knows what's going on, but there's some interesting fallout from some of the stuff. I want to start though with a shocking story. Are you ready to be shocked? Kinda.
I couldn't be any more shocked.
Yeah. Okay. A shocking story. Have you ever used those booking sites for hotels and airlines and all that kind of stuff?
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. So if you live in a high cost of living area, like this particular writer, he's from the SF Gate. Keith Spencer has written this, and it just came out yesterday. So if you live in a high cost of living city or town, whatever, then if you use one of these sites, you're probably getting ripped off. This is crazy. I never thought that this would be the way this stuff works. So the most popular hotel booking sites raised their prices substantially when San Franciscans used their online booking platforms. So what he did was a bunch of tests where from San Francisco, he went onto these booking sites and then he went to go book a hotel, say in New York, and it was hundreds of dollars more than when he used what some people call a VPN, but I think it's just a proxy server. When he used
Yeah.
it, use a VPN, so it looks like you're coming from a lower cost of living area, then the price was significantly cheaper. Now he doesn't tell us whether it's cheaper for airlines as well, but I would assume that might also be the case. So for a Manhattan hotel room, when he booked this from San Francisco, it was $500 more per night than
Per
doing it
night.
from a lower
That's
cost of.
insane.
Yeah,
Wow.
per night. This is huge. All these commercials that say use all these different booking sites, you're going to save all kinds of money. Nay, nay, I say.
Uh-uh.
I say, nay, nay.
Hey, laissez-faire capitalism at its best.
Yeah, yeah. So, I know this is a little bit of a side trip here, but I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, I should have one of these, VPNs. Or, like I said, they're not really VPNs. A VPN is something that takes you inside of an office, so you're virtually on that network. That's not what those NordVPN and all those other VPNs do. All they do is
Well,
hide your actual IP address.
they do that, but I've actually had some experience with the NordVPN. You can actually choose your exit point. You can get in there and
That's
say,
great.
I want to look like I'm coming from Houston, or I
Oh,
want to look like I'm coming
that's
from,
cool.
yeah.
No, no, that's very cool. It's still not a VPN. You're
Yeah,
just picking which
not
proxy
per
server
se.
you're coming out of.
Yeah, it's tunneling from where you are to where you're going, but it's not a
Yeah.
true secure VPN.
Right, right. There's not, it's not the same thing. But what's interesting is if you want to get the same kind of experience without paying the money, is you get a web browser like Opera. So if you go to Google, on your regular web browser, and you just type in Opera web browser download, go ahead and download it. There is a free VPN option. So you go into the settings and you check the box for VPN. And guess what? You're now, exiting, your egress is
Hmm.
coming from a completely different IP address. And what's interesting is every time you go to it, you're going to get a different IP address because you're
Hmm.
being bounced around from different places in the world. So now Firefox also used to have this, but now they're charging for it. So, oh
Ah,
well.
but what if I'm
Uh,
in Portland and I'm trying to book something and I do this random VPN and it says, "Oh, you're in San Francisco."
then you close out and you go back in again and you'll be in some other
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
Might even be outside the country. I don't know.
that's true.
Coming from China, hey, that hotel's now going to be
Oh,
$50.
yeah, or Bangladesh.
There you go. Yeah, I'll bet it'll be a lot cheaper.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was really shocking. I had no idea that they were doing that. So, definitely come from a different IP address, or if you have family that lives in a different, part of the country that's not high cost of living, maybe remote into their computer and then book it from there. I don't know.
And also I found using the what do they call that when you have your browser uh, the name escapes me.
Okay.
Anyway, if have you ever booked a flight and then you go back in to get that flight and it's more expensive?
Oh, yeah, yeah, or sometimes cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. So sometimes clear your browser cache and you go back in again,
Okay.
and it'll be different.
Oh, that is a very good point. That's a good point. So this is some of the groups that he tested apparently. Expedia, Booking.com, Priceline, Kayak, Travelocity, Orbitz, Hotels, Trivago. So there
Hmm.
you go.
I used
Uh,
to use Orbitz all the time.
yeah. Yeah, I've been using Expedia for years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is something for those of you who are in high cost of living areas to definitely watch out for. One of the things that happened at CES was Microsoft was really wanting people to update to Windows 11 in 2025. Now, they don't want you just to update your current computer, although that is an opportunity, that's a possibility. They've recently relaxed the requirements for requiring that you have the secure boot turned on
Yeah,
and
TPM.
the TPM, yeah, that's right, Trusted Platform Module, all 2.0. So it is possible to install Windows 11 without those. It has been using a hack for quite some time, but
Hmm.
Microsoft closed that hack and then they just said, all right, let's just, let people just update. But what they would prefer is that you get a new computer because the new computers come with new processors that have better AI types of capabilities, and they run, they said on average 58% faster. Yeah, who knows? Um, yeah. Now, with the exception of these vertical markets that are replacing employees with AI, the basic consumer AI is, in my opinion, not that great.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I hate it when you do a search and they give you this AI input first, and it's like that's not what I asked for.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, Google's definitely doing that right now. And it's kind of annoying because most of the time it's wrong. So I get that programmers are using it, employers are using it to replace employees. I mean, I'm not happy about it. I think that it's dumb to do that.
Yeah.
But hey, if you want to look like an evil corporation, then go ahead and do that kind of stuff. But the consumer stuff, not that great yet. I think that Google is starting to feel the pinch that people are starting to ask Copilot from Microsoft and ChatGPT questions instead of going into Google where they get paid every time you do a search.
Hmm.
That could really hurt Google in the long run. Now, Google also makes most of their money or a lot of their money from YouTube, but they've been ruining YouTube now for years. They keep making really unpopular decisions. New YouTube competitors are coming up. It's not looking good long term for Google. They're going to have to figure something out to make some more money. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's some of the changes you they make are just maddening. It's like I don't even want to go there. But yeah, it's they make these changes. Well, and all the manufacturers do. It's like Apple will say, "Oh, we made 200 improvements in the latest version of iOS."
Yeah.
No, you made 200 changes. You moved a button from here to here. You changed the color of this. You didn't really make any sizable changes or improvements.
Yeah, nobody really knows the majority of the changes that they made, and they certainly don't notice any improvements. You
Right.
remember that strip that would go wrong along the laptops a few years back, and you could use
Hmm.
that as kind of but I don't know if you push it as a button. Did you ever see one of those?
Yeah, it was a little touchpad thing, and I think it seemed to go away pretty quickly.
Yeah, what did it do exactly?
It seemed like a toolbar, and it had stuff that worked in conjunction with the app you were running. But
Okay.
it's like you have to retrain yourself how to use that, and it pretty much just kind of faded away.
Yeah, I wonder if it just didn't work the way people thought it was, or I don't know. I'd never actually seen one except on, videos and stuff. And
Yeah,
Apple said
marketing
this is
people.
the greatest thing ever. Speaking of Apple and CES, they are coming out with new products. So they did some demos for some of the new things that were coming out. They've got an M4 MacBook Air with better battery camera and external display support. iPhone SE4 edge-to-edge display, so you don't have that big border. iPad 11 upgraded the chip to support AI, of course. And that's funny. They don't call it artificial intelligence. They call it Apple Intelligence. Ooh, good marketing.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
iPad Air, the M3 to M4 chip. I had to buy a Macintosh last year. I was so annoyed. But I make a lot of educational videos, and
Hmm.
sometimes people want to know how to do things on a Mac, and so you gotta,
Got
you
to have
know,
one.
gotta do it.
Yep.
So I had to buy one. So I bought the cheapest possible Mac they make, which is the Mini. So I
Hmm.
think it was about $500, something like that. And it's been fine, you know. I just
Yeah.
basically remote into it using VNC to demonstrate whatever application I'm trying to do. But
Yeah.
I'm just not a Mac, you know.
I've got a MacBook Pro and an iMac that I use. Yeah, similar situation with somebody needs to set up a VPN, somebody needs to do this or that. So I
Yeah.
can go in there and actually test it before I deploy it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good reason to have it. Yeah. So the Mac Studio is getting an upgrade. Mac Pro, iPhone 17 is coming out. 24 megapixel camera, new thinner design. See, I don't know if the thinner design is a great idea because it just makes it more
Yeah,
bendable.
more fragile. Yep.
Yeah.
Leave it in your back pocket and you are in trouble.
I thought that by now Apple would have a phone that folds. I have a phone that folds, two ways. I've got a phone that folds, like this, the horizontal, and the one that goes vertical. The
Hmm.
one that does vertical, like a clamshell, is really lightweight. So I use that for when I go on walks or, where I don't want something really heavy in my pocket.
Hmm.
But I thought by now Apple would have one. So I've got a couple different kinds of foldable phones, and I bought, this one used. It was $400 on Amazon. Works just as good as the new ones. They haven't
Are
really
they,
improved them all that much.
did they say what they're using for the edge of the new iPhone 17? Are they still stuck on titanium?
Let's see, ultra thin design, better chip, um, smaller dynamic island. Is that what that is?
The dynamic island. Oh, what is
Yeah,
that? I have no idea.
I don't know. High blood pressure detection, health
Cool.
sensors. Yeah, they're really going towards the health thing, but I think that's going to possibly get them in trouble with some lawsuits. They're going to have some interesting
Yeah,
terms of service.
they had to drop the oxygenation sensor in their phones or in their watches because they had stolen somebody's technology.
Oh, I thought it didn't work. I didn't realize they stolen technology.
It
Wow.
it works. My watch does it, and I've also got one of the little fingertip things to check it.
Yeah.
And they're generally pretty close.
Yeah, here you go.
I
I got
could.
one
Yep, I
right.
got one of those back at home.
Let's see. Let's
Um,
see how I'm doing here.
yeah,
It's still trying to figure it out. I hope the Apple one was faster.
yeah. Should you be going? Should you be sitting there or going to the hospital?
It says I'm alive.
Okay.
96 oxygen and 81.
Yeah.
Hey, it's always a little bit higher, when you're on there. Usually when I'm sitting here,
Mhm.
it shows like 69, 70, something like that. But whenever I'm
Yep.
actually on camera, it goes up about 10 beats a minute.
Yeah. Doing
Now,
something. Yep.
96 is because I have asthma. So my lungs, were damaged when I was a kid. And I've had a couple of bouts of pneumonia and all kinds. So yeah, 96, actually, I'm happy with.
No, actually 96 is a good number even for people with regular lungs.
Oh, really? Okay.
96 is just fine down to 95, 94, even 92.
Really, anything above 90, huh?
Um, yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Scott. I appreciate
You're
that.
you're welcome. I've got some experience with this. So and basically the doctors say, ah, don't, 92, you're fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, are you a big Halo player? You're not a big gamer, though.
I am not. I wish I had the time
Yeah.
and it would be fun, but no, I'm not.
I find it easier to, like, when I go to make an educational course, for Microsoft or whatever company I'm doing work for, I find it easier to do several videos and then take a brain break and then shoot some monsters.
Hmm.
And it is it definitely helps me stay up, gets the adrenaline going and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I don't play it exclusive. Like, so far I haven't played any games at all today, but I do have some videos to make, so I'll probably make some videos, and then that'll be my reward to take a brain break. But
Hmm.
Halo is coming to the PlayStation. That's something that we thought would never happen. But
Right.
Microsoft bought the company that makes Halo. Geez, what's the name of that company? It was like 69, 68 billion dollars. Oh, here it is. Activision Blizzard. So they bought Blizzard, and it's almost
Yeah, I remember that.
$70 billion. Yeah. So, like, you know what? I think our shareholders are going to be a little bit annoyed if we don't start getting some payback on this, because PlayStation's outsell Xbox. The last article I read anyway was like 5-1 at least.
Mm.
Might be even higher than that.
Okay, lots
So
of money in licensing.
yeah, they're a company out to make money, not necessarily to dominate the hardware business. So it is Microsoft, right? I mean, it's not micro hardware.
Yeah, they want you to
So,
buy an Xbox, but if you're not going to buy an Xbox, you can play their games still on the
exactly.
PlayStation.
Exactly. So anyway, I think that's a really smart thing to do. It's also going to be on the Switch as well. Now that or Switch version 2, it looks like, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the latest and greatest Halos are going to be on there. They're going to do the Master Chief Collection, which has been around for a while. So I don't think that has the latest version of Halo on it. But I'll tell you what, the first day the next Halo comes out, I'll be pretty excited to do that, because I love getting in those various different ships and flying around and shooting things. That's a good
Hmm.
break for me.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah. That came from IGN.com. The New York Post came out with an interesting: Apple users warned of high-tech malware on a Macintosh, steals personal data and
Mm.
goes undetected for months.
Ooh.
So, it's not just Windows anymore. So Checkpoint came out. You remember Checkpoint firewalls, right?
Hmm. Yep.
They issued an urgent warning to millions of Mac users around the world who may be preyed upon by malicious actors evading the device's built-in antivirus. Oh, so Mac has built-in antivirus like Windows does?
I wasn't aware of that, but wouldn't
Huh.
surprise me because they want that market. They don't want anybody to sell to
Yeah.
their people.
All right. Well, the name of the malware is called Banshee Mac OS Stealer. Steals your credentials, sensitive data, all that kind of stuff. Checkpoint calls it. It's for sale on uh, underground forums. Like the dark web. So you can, if you're a hacker, you can buy this malware for $3,000, and then you can start sending off phishing emails to people to try to get them to click on a link that will infect their computer. So
Ah,
interesting. Yeah, end users, that's the one thing that we just can't seem to lock down as security professionals.
Yeah, if we didn't have end users, it would be a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, when all we do is have AI for staff, then yeah, that'll be great. But yeah,
Hmm.
end users, staff that use computers, they're just constantly infecting the network. It's just unbelievable. They click on links and email. I mean, and you try to train them, and they just don't get it. They're constantly fooled by everything that comes through on their computer.
Hmm.
Did you ever get an email that was sent by the company you were working for, to test you to see if you
Hmm.
click on it?
I have not received those, but I work with clients that have systems set up like KnowBe4,
Oh, okay.
and they'll go out and do periodic testing and just to see if anybody clicks. If they do click, they are forced to go into some training.
Exactly. I have, since I teach college, I have received many emails, from these from the IT department to try to get me to click
Hmm.
on something. So, they come, I think about once a month, something like that. But all the emails now come with a little warning saying this email came from outside. It's not a good idea to communicate with these people. But
Yeah, that's the thing. Like on Exchange Online, you can go in and set that up such that if it comes from outside, it gives that warning.
oh, it gives that warning. Yeah, yeah, that's a really good idea. Well, Adobe. Oh, speaking of evil corporations,
Yeah.
Adobe. They have a new bulk AI image tool that can edit thousands of images in seconds. So they have something called Firefly. So let's say you have a picture of something. In this case, they're showing a picture of sunglasses. So you show a picture of sunglasses and you say, "Hey, give me some other options for these sunglasses." And within a few seconds, it shows you these sunglasses, different positions, different colors, different backgrounds. And you pick the one you want,
Hmm.
and then that's how you use your picture. So instead of just generating AI images, which a lot of these do, it takes an image you already have, which is really interesting, and then it modifies it in hundreds of different ways.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's called Firefly
Okay.
from Adobe. It's something interesting like that has happened with PowerPoint. I don't know if you've noticed this, but with PowerPoint, if you go in to create a new, slide deck, then if you insert a picture on the right-hand side, all of a sudden it'll pop up with a whole bunch of different options for how you can make that look. So
Hmm.
it kind of reminds me of that a little bit, which I thought is actually pretty helpful. I've used a couple of them now and then. Most of the time I don't because I have to stay with a certain template from the company that hired me to make the educational stuff.
Right.
But if I'm making something on my own, for YouTube or whatever, then I'll go ahead and do that. So yeah, Firefly from Adobe. So you can go ahead and take a look at that. Now, no, I'm not an investor in Adobe.
Hmm.
I did do some
Yeah, and
investing. What's that?
I was going to say I've got a client that I've had to go in and try to get rid of some of the automatic options that Adobe puts in because they use Adobe. They don't like it that much, but they kind of have to.
Yeah.
And there's some things that it installs that we try to get rid of.
Yeah, it is pretty annoying. Yeah, they put on a lot of stuff that you just don't like. A little bit like Windows when you first install
Hmm.
it.
Oh, automatically save to the cloud. No, I don't want to
Right.
automatically save to the
No,
cloud.
I did not want that. Although
Nope.
Word and Excel, they all do that now too. They
Yep.
try to get you to
Oh, I
save
know.
it to OneDrive, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, and I've got a particular client that hates OneDrive, doesn't like the idea of all the data being out there rather than in here.
Sure. Well, all the laptops that are super inexpensive, they default to OneDrive.
Hmm.
So they give you this really small hard drive, like 250, gigs, 500 gigs, something like that. And they're like, you don't need a big hard drive. You just save it onto OneDrive, and we
Sure.
got unlimited space there. I'll send you the bill.
Yeah, but unless the internet's down.
Yeah, the internet goes down. I end up because when I teach on campus and I teach on Zoom as well, and my biggest fear, which has happened multiple times, is that the internet goes down. So what I did was I got that it's like $45 a month thing from T-Mobile. which is a 5G, little box, and it has
Hmm.
you just connect to it with Wi-Fi. Now the speed isn't as good, so I end up turning my camera off and all that kind of stuff, and so it's just voice only with whatever I'm demonstrating, shared screen. But it works,
Right.
so I can keep teaching my class even if my Comcast internet goes down. So it's like, it's 450 or like what, 500 something dollars a year. Oh well, but at least I can keep teaching the
It's
class.
yeah, you got redundancy in your connection.
I don't want to tell the dean, sorry, I couldn't teach that night because my internet went down.
Yeah, you got to give them money back.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's tax deductible anyway, so why not?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, there has been a few classes, sometimes they'll hire a teacher that they interviewed really well, and you also have to not just do an interview, but you also have to do a demonstration. You have to pretend like you're teaching a class. And
That's a good
so,
idea.
yeah. So I've sat in on some of these interviews and given my opinion on some things like that. But anyway, they do, super well, doing all that. But then when they go to teach the class, they're so disorganized, or
Hmm.
they are very political when there's really no reason to be in in a computer class. I mean, come on, you don't need to tell
Yeah.
us. One guy quit because he said that the college was too liberal, and he was a big Trumper, and said that he needed to show both sides, and so, like, I don't know what he's talking about. I never said,
Both sides of computer science. What is he
yeah,
talking about?
I never said a word politically to anybody ever when I'm
No,
teaching the class.
you weren't Trumpy enough.
I wasn't Trumpy enough, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really an odd thing. I mean, it's stupid to talk about politics when you're teaching a class, unless
Yeah.
you're teaching a political science class. Okay, I get that.
Yeah. That's
Any
one
other
thing,
class,
but
I don't get it. I don't get it.
yep.
Maybe philosophy. Maybe philosophy. I don't know. So President Elon Musk, speaking of presidents, misrepresented data that shows Tesla is still years away from unsupervised self-driving. So President Musk is praising data that he claims shows Tesla is on the verge of achieving unsupervised full self-driving. He sells a package to people for $15,000, full self-driving packages up to $15,000, but they don't work. So here's something that most people may not realize. In all deference to President Musk, it's not the software that could be the problem here. The software may have been written fantastic. I mean, he probably got rid of all of his programmers and did it with AI, right? I don't know.
Probably.
The problem is, and this started with 4G. So remember 4G, LTE, this is when we started talking about self-driving, where the car just
Mhm.
drives without any, input whatsoever. And what they were saying back then was that 4G is not fast enough to, send information to the car from the internet to say, don't run over that little girl that just ran out in front of you.
Mhm.
And so they said, well, what's going to happen is that when 5G comes out, which we already have now for a couple of years at least, when 5G
Yeah.
comes out, then it'll be fast enough. But here's the problem. In order to obtain faster speeds, and this is also true of your Wi-Fi at home, in order to obtain faster speeds, you have to go at a higher gigahertz. Now, to go to a higher gigahertz, it doesn't travel that far. It also doesn't
Right.
travel through walls. So,
Hmm.
if so I a lot of times will go out to Seaside from the Portland area, and it's 60 something miles. And I noticed that there's multiple spots where I don't get any cell coverage whatsoever.
Yep.
So my GPS is like, I don't know where you are. You know? So
You were
what?
here and you should be here, but we really don't know
Well,
for
we don't
sure.
get it. Yeah, exactly. So in order for 5G to work properly, you're going to need many times more cell towers than we currently have.
Hmm.
So because again, they don't travel that far. 4G could go for miles. 5G cannot do that. So you have to have line of sight, just like Wi-Fi at home. You have to have line of
Yep.
sight between the devices, and you have to have a lot more of them. So, for instance, I recently got the Wi-Fi 6E, right? Which Wi-Fi 7 is out. But the Wi-Fi 7 devices and the phones are still super expensive. So I'm like, all right, we'll get that later. So I did
Yep.
Wi-Fi 6E. I used to be able to cover my whole house with two wireless access points. I can't do that anymore. I need five now.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't have like concrete floors or anything like that. It's an open concept type of house, but in order to cover everything, so I can go from room to room without dropping down or losing connectivity, I got to have five of them. So if you've recently upgraded your Wi-Fi and you're like, hey, this is supposed to be better, and it's not, it's because
That's
the
why.
that yeah, it's higher gigahertz. It doesn't travel through walls. It doesn't travel as far. You need more of it. So once again, Tesla, the software might be good. We don't know, but until they get more 5G towers. Now, what's interesting is, one of my sons said something that like blew me away. He said, "Why don't you just put on all new cars a little 5G tower?" That's
Mhm.
genius. Not just a 5G antenna, a little 5G tower that talks to the 5G car in front of you, that talks to the 5G car in front of them, and you're all connected. But you're not connected
Yep.
internally necessarily. You're just connected for the self-driving. Uh,
Yeah, at least the cars will know where each other is.
yeah. And you would be instantly increasing the amount of these different things. So Musk is trying to go a different route. He's like he knows that there are not enough of these towers. So he's trying to use satellite internet instead. Now, of course, he does
Oh,
own this big satellite internet company. What's that thing called?
amazing.
What's
Starlink.
Starlink? Yes, thank you. Yeah, so he could connect that, but the problem is it's not fast enough. Also, I have satellite radio, and I drive, like I said, from Portland to Seaside, Oregon, and there's a lot of times I can't get any coverage, and that's because the trees
Yeah.
are blocking your southern exposure, which is
Hmm.
where all the satellites are. So
And
that's
that's
not a
just
good.
radio. That's not trying to put all the data out that you would use for a self-driving car.
Yeah, I mean you're right because you've got a lot of safety issues here that you got to deal with where it's got to stay in its
Hmm.
lane, it's got to stop if something gets in front of you. That's yeah, radio is I'm just receiving a signal. That's hard. That's really low bandwidth.
You know,
But
in,
you're
in
sending.
Europe they in
But
Europe they have an extensive self-driving car system already.
oh,
It's called
really?
commuter trains.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Not so much in the US. Have you ever seen the maps comparing the train coverage in Europe as opposed to the US?
I have
I
not,
mean, we're so big that we don't have that much.
especially in the
But
West.
in Europe, it's like it's just coded. If you can get to anywhere on by train.
Oh, interesting. I guess they don't need as many cars on the road then.
Yep.
Have you seen since they started doing surge pricing in New York, in Manhattan? Have you seen how few cars are actually on the road now?
No, I haven't looked at that, but I saw the story about them finally implementing it.
Yeah, $9 more to come into the city, and the roads are almost empty now. Just for $9. Now,
Yeah.
maybe they're doing this on purpose, but what about people who restock grocery stores? If they're not coming into
Mhm.
the city now because of the $9, maybe that's going to cause a problem. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the local businesses must be thrilled with those empty streets.
Yeah, exactly. You've only got the people who live there, and that's it. Which I mean, there's a lot of people,
Mhm.
but come on.
Yeah.
So, Apple, I know we talked a little bit about some of the new products that are coming out. So they're going to do a lot of health-focused upgrades for their watches. I've seen a lot of commercials lately for various different smartwatches, that
Hmm.
are now all health focused because we have such a huge amount of people that are older now. Not us, of course, but
Oh no,
everybody else.
no.
Yeah. So they need to know, hey, am I dying of a heart attack right now? They need to have that kind of stuff. At least they think they do. Need to have that kind of stuff to let them know. So the Ultra Watch 3 is expected to include satellite connectivity. So wow, 5G Red Cap, which is reduced capability network access. I guess it's like satellite, but it's not full featured because it's not as fast. I think is what it is. But of course, you'll still
Mhm.
have 5G as well. Excuse me. So the feature is expected to be exclusive to third generations of the Ultra Watch, which was not updated in 2024. So if you bought the version of 2024, you might not have the latest one.
Shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have done it.
Should
You
have
never
waited.
know. New model expected to have more health, high blood pressure detection, ultra on the Ultra and series models. Said to be designing its health app with AI-based coaching services. Get your fat butt out of the chair. Thanks,
Yeah, you want
AI.
coaching? I'll give you coaching. Stand
Thanks
up, damn
very
it.
much, AI. AirTags, which are getting an upgrade as well. So that's helpful.
I
AirTag
still
version
don't
2.
know how the technology is going to work for taking blood pressure with a watch. It's like what they take it in the doctor's office is, it takes power. It compresses your arm, but they're going to do it with a watch. That
That's a
should be
good
interesting.
point. That's a really good point. I mean, yeah, getting your pulse, that's easy enough, right? It's on
Yeah,
your
getting
wrist.
the oxygen, that's easy.
Yeah, yeah. You just got to pay the people.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't. Maybe the watch squeezes your wrist. The watch
Yeah, maybe it
squeezes
has
your
a
wrist, maybe.
really an interactive watch band.
That would be hilarious. Um, so Microsoft Outlook. Oh,
The new Outlook, isn't it wonderful?
so I didn't know this at the time because I made a bunch of Outlook videos for YouTube, and I'm getting a lot of comments from people going, "I don't have that feature. That option isn't in my version of
Hmm.
Outlook." And it turns out that there's a paid version of Outlook that's fully featured and functional, and then there's a free Outlook that everyone's getting forced on them. So Windows Mail is going away or has gone away, and you're now getting this version of
This
Outlook,
dumbed
and
down Outlook.
yeah, dumbed down Outlook. So we're calling it New Outlook. I know it's probably going to be called Outlook 2024 or something like that in the future, but everybody's currently referring to it as New Outlook. Have any of
Mhm.
your clients gotten New Outlook yet?
Yeah, most of them don't like it, and we revert back to the classic, which is still available. Although I had one the other day that they wanted to use classic, and it wouldn't work. It would never connect to the profile. The new Outlook connected to the profile just fine, but I uninstalled, rebooted, reinstalled, and it just could not. It choked every time it tried to connect to the profile. Even tried a new profile, and that didn't work.
So there's two things going on. I do have some information for you for that client and for those of you listening who
Okay.
are having similar problems. Microsoft is removing Outlook 2016 and 2019 from support using Microsoft 365. Now, they're
Ah,
not doing it all at once, but some people have already had it removed, and some people are going to see that it's going to be removed shortly. So if you're using Microsoft 365 and you've been using Outlook 2016 or Outlook 2019, maybe with Office 2016 or 19, and all of a sudden you can't connect anymore, that's why. You have to use the
ah.
new Outlook. There's another problem as well. So up until now, we've been using the $6 Microsoft 365 Basic, right? You've probably
Mhm.
got a bunch of people on that. I know that we've been on it, right? Because
Yep.
we already have our paid versions of Office. So we're going to go with
Right.
the cheap. If you go up to nine
And just
dollars
to
a
get the
month,
email.
what's that?
Yeah, just to get the email, you
Yeah, just
just
get
do
the email.
that, and then
Yeah, for a few dollars.
use your Outlook.
Exactly. For a few dollars more a month, you can also get Microsoft 365, the Outlook application. But I'm like, why would I pay for that? I've already paid for Outlook, 2019 or 20, whatever it is. Um, so the problem is that version is not going to work with the new Outlook. Oh, you have to now go with the $9 or $10 version of
Hmm.
email that includes the application. You can't go with the basic anymore with new Outlook.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then a lot of my clients will say, "Okay, fine, let's do it," but they're going to be pissed.
Oh yeah.
Not at us, obviously,
Oh
but
yeah.
they're going to
Well,
be pissed.
yeah, yeah. It's not going to be fun. Um,
No.
so you got two things going. One is they're getting rid of the old application. The other is they're making it so you can't use the cheap email with the new application. Now, one of the reasons I really dislike the new Outlook is because parts of it are online only. So with the old version, you would 100% have, your email, your calendar, your contacts, your task list 100% on
Hmm.
your computer after being synchronized to Outlook Online. But now you have things that are online only. And if you lose connectivity, you're going to lose access to those particular pieces of information. So the things I've seen so far that are online only are the task list, but they're going to move other things as well, like the calendar and some of the other things. The email itself, I think, will always, or for the time being, will have
Yeah.
an on computer type of a file that you can access, but the rest of it is going online.
And sooner or later, they're going to remove the OST.
Yes, the OST file, which is what you save it in. I mean, they already got rid of the PST file, which allows you to back up your file locally and then restore
Hmm.
it. They got rid of that. So you could still export it, but you can no longer import it. What's the point?
Or
If
you
you
can
can do
export it and then connect to it, but yeah, it'd be nice to be able to import it into a new mailbox.
exactly, yeah. I mean, that's what we would do a lot of times is we would export it,
A
save
lot.
it up to the network so it gets backed up and whatever.
Hmm.
So anyway, Motorola's been bounced around a bunch of times after being a giant corporation up until the 1990s. It got sold to Google, and Google's like, well, I don't know what we're going to do with it. Let's sell it to China. So Motorola's been sold off, but they're making super cheap phones. So if you don't want to pay the $1,000 for a phone, they're making a $200 Moto G and a $300 Moto G Power, they call it, with big improvements. So you can drop it in a pool. It's waterproof. It's got Department of Defense types of certifications. Of course, the Department of Defense is never going to use these phones. But
Nope.
anyway,
Mhm.
they have 5,000 mAh batteries for decent
Cool.
support, things like that. So anyway, if you are interested in not paying a huge amount, look at Motorola. Everything's made in China anyway, phone wise. So it's not like you're making it so an American doesn't have a job.
Right. Yeah. If you buy an iPhone, it still comes from China.
Yeah, or Taiwan, or I know there's trying to
Yep.
make them in Vietnam now too. But so basically, we gave away all of our manufacturing so we could get it all cheaper, and now we're all surprised with our Pikachu face when it's like, China's making thousands and thousands of ships, and we make a couple here and there. So obviously, that's going to have to change. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we're all going to be in trouble. So, any last minute news that you would like to jump in with, or stories that you've heard this week, Scott?
Hmm. No, nothing comes to mind. I think there's going to be a lot of new IT work down in Southern California with the
Oh
fires
yeah,
and installations down there in SoCal.
yep, yep. I totally agree with you on that one. Once they build back the infrastructure, I think
Yeah, but
they'll do it.
I'm just wondering how much of an influx of transients we're going to get from Southern California saying they're sick of it, they're done, they're leaving.
Are you worried about them coming into the Pacific Northwest? Is that what you're saying, Scott?
That's right. I want Oregon jobs for Oregonians.
So if your house burned down today, you would technically be a transient.
That's true.
So we've got a bunch of multi-millionaire transients from California we're a little bit worried about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wonder how much some of those people will be able to afford to rebuild. I mean, they've been dropping
Yeah.
insurance down there. There was several stories with people that had dropped their insurance because they couldn't afford it. It went from, $6,000 to $18,000 a year,
Geez,
and
I
they just
would
could.
seriously consider dropping it if it went to that kind of a price.
Yeah, they were dropping it totally, and
Yeah.
now they've been destroyed in fire, and they have no recourse.
Well, what Florida has done is they've created a state, type of insurance, which is a lot cheaper, but is not going to cover as much. So
Right.
you're not going to get quite as much money, but it satisfied the banks because without, fire insurance, you're not going to get a loan for a house. Banks are be like, we're not going to, give you that loan. And then
Right.
if you can't get a loan for a house, then the prices of houses will plummet. I would assume that California, if they haven't done it already, they're going to have to do something like that as well. And eventually, every coastal state, including Oregon, is going to have to do the same thing. Because guess what?
Mhm.
Global warming is not going away.
Yeah,
They're going
it's
to have to do
real,
something.
believe it or not.
Yeah, that's right. Things are happening that we're going to have to pay attention to before something like prices just dropping out of the sky for our houses. I mean that would be the ultimate slap in the face. But seriously, you do feel very badly for everybody
Oh,
there. It's
I cannot
horrible.
imagine what they're going through. It's
Oh,
just
yeah,
devastating.
that would be the worst. I mean, to lose everything. So yeah. So I don't mean I'm not laughing at them or anything like that, but you got to find amusement in some of the horrible things that happen somehow. So hopefully,
Yep.
they'll be taken care of by the insurance companies, the government, and they'll get back to, where they need to be to live a normal life as soon as possible.
Mhm.
But we are out of time. We've had another fun and exciting All Tech Radio Show podcast, and we'll see you again hopefully soon.
That's right.